In late April, the dating site Bumble rolled out an ad campaign urging people to get on with it. It being sex. In billboards and online ads, Bumble urged, quote, "A vow of celibacy is not the answer." Within weeks, Bumble was apologizing. "We made a mistake," the company said. The internet had pushed back hard on the ad campaign, saying there's plenty of reason for people to opt out of sex right now. Some just aren't into it. Others suggested that opting out is the correct response, as reproductive health laws are changing so swiftly across the United States. And not having sex is also increasing over the long term. Maybe you've heard this about young people. For example, according to UCLA's California Health Interview Survey, 38% of young Californians ages 18 to 30 reported having no sexual partners in the previous year. 38%. That's a decade high. Back in 2011, it was 22% of young people reporting no sexual partners. There was also an increase in not having sex for older California adults ages 35 to 60 in that survey as well, just not quite as big a change as for younger adults. And a different study in 2021 found declines in all kinds of partnered sexual activity between 2009 and 2018. That was in a self-reported survey of people ages 14 to 49. The question is, why? What's changing? Why are more people not having sex? Researchers have a number of guesses. There's video games and social media. There's the misery of online dating. There's more people identifying as asexual and less in real-life encounters all around as more of our relationships are characterized by texting. By the way, according to a recent poll, only 4 in 10 adults between 65 and 80 report being sexually active. That means 6 in 10 of you are not. Back in 2015, we asked our listeners why you weren't having sex. And you had all sorts of reasons and feelings about it. Some of you were okay with not having sex. Some of you wish you had more. This week, as Memorial Day marks the unofficial start to summer, we thought we'd share this episode again to help you think through the summer you hope to have, whether it's hot and heavy or if you're just fine saying no thanks.
It just became easier not to have sex, just to keep the peace.
This is Death, Sex, and Money. The show from Slate about the things we think about a lot and need to talk about more. I'm Anna Sale.
McDonald's presents Burger Reviews by Hamburglar. Today's review, the hotter, juicier classic burgers. Mr. Hamburglar, robble. He said, "Of all the McDonald's burgers I've ever hamburgled, these are the hottest, juiciest, and tastiest." Robble.
Hamburglary is on the rise. Get caught with a medium double cheeseburger meal for $6. Price and participation may vary. Promotion pricing may be lower than meal price. Comparison to prior classic burgers.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Back in 2015, we got an email from a listener that I'll call Marie.
I'm 34 years old, and I haven't dated anyone seriously. I've never even been kissed before by anybody.
Marie had also never had sex.
I do still have that fear that I'm going to tell somebody that I've never had sex before, and they're going to walk away. Instead of a scarlet letter A, it would be a scarlet letter V.
Not having sex, ever before or just right now, can feel isolating, maybe a little embarrassing. But we suspected that Marie's not alone. So a few weeks back, I asked you this question. Why are you not having sex right now?
I'm not having sex because men don't find me attractive.
Because my body's broken and it can't seem to be fixed.
I'm really terrified of men.
I've been celibate for about 14 years.
And the weird thing is that I'm okay with it.
I would rather read a book than be intimate with him.
We heard from people who wish they were having sex.
I'm not having sex because, like the old Barry Manilow song, the feeling's gone. I don't know how to get it back.
We haven't even slept in the same room in over 7 years.
I've stopped initiating, kind of to wait him out, and we've been in a stalemate.
We also heard from people who aren't having sex because they don't want to be.
I'm all right with being single and sexless.
I wasn't really liking the path where I was going, kind of using sex and other people as a crutch.
No matter what the reason, sex, especially when you're not having it, can be so hard to talk about.
On my birthday, I brought it up, and I started a huge fight.
It's still something we don't talk about at all among our friends.
Both of us have a significant amount of friends who are in, like, heterosexual relationships, and it always seems like they're having way more sex.
That's Sarah. When I talked to her with her girlfriend Claire, they'd been together for about 2.5 years. They asked that we not use their real names, as did most of the people in this episode.
I think we started out having way more sex than we do now.
Yeah, definitely teetered off.
About how many months has been your longest stretch of not having sex together?
2 or 3 months, I would say. It was quite a cliff dive compared to what we were doing before.
Does it feel frustrating or does it feel okay when you have stretches of no sex?
I think. Do you want to go first, Claire? And I think this is where we have differing views. And for me, if I'm not having sex, after a certain point, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not having sex. That's fine. And I think for Sarah, she's more on the mindset of, I want to be having more sex. Why are we not having sex? And it becomes more of a stress factor.
So, Sarah, what happens when you're feeling frustrated?
I don't know. I tend to kind of bottle everything up and I keep it inside, and metaphorically, I say I put a lot of things in my backpack, and I just carry it around, and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and then it just comes to a point where I just explode, and everything comes out at once.
Well, and I think this is definitely something that we don't know how to figure our way out of right now. I mean, for me, when I'm feeling like we don't have that communication, or if we're arguing, I don't want to have sex. I feel like disconnected from her. And for me, that disconnect wins over the desire to have sex.
When you're in a moment where, Claire, you're not really feeling like having sex, and Sarah, you'd really like to have sex, do you touch, or does that create sort of an impasse where you don't really want to be close to each other?
I think when I want to have sex, I I do this thing where I'll just run across the room and jump on top of her and start kissing her and cuddling her and just being kind of silly. And sometimes, when I do that, I don't get much of a reaction from her. She's just like, I'm busy, or I'm thinking, or I'm doing something. And then I'm just kind of let down and just roll over and go back to doing whatever I was doing before.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Or there's a mixed signal or a missed signal. And I think there are times when it's very obvious that that's what she's going for. But again, it's I don't know that jumping on me like a little kid does makes me feel hot. I'd prefer someone to make me feel sexy versus silly.
Does it sometimes feel like when you talk about your tensions around sex that it makes the tensions more difficult?
I think so, but
I don't know. I like that we put it out there. For me, I think sex is it's a bigger part of a relationship, and I don't know. I miss it.
You miss it.
I miss it. Yeah.
I don't really miss it.
Cameron sent in this voice memo from St. Louis.
I miss the intimacy, which sex is an essential component of. But I don't miss sex removed from any of that context. I have dealt with chronic back pain issues since I was 19, I'm 27 now. Sex is so physical. It's a moment when you're deeply vulnerable in your physicality, and you need to be present as somebody with a body. And when you're in pain on kind of a minute-to-minute basis, all you want to do is forget that you have a body, and you can't escape that during sex.
You can't escape your body during sex. That's something that Ellen has also been thinking about lately. Why aren't you having sex right now?
Because I contracted herpes in June.
Were you in a relationship with a person that you got herpes from?
No. It was a casual friendship and somebody that I had known for a short time, but I mean, I trusted him. Oh, fuck, if I could just go back.
Prior to that, had you been pretty regularly sexually active?
Like off and on. I've had a couple boyfriends, and then I've gone through times when I, gone 2 years without having sex, and it wasn't a huge deal.
Does it feel different this time?
Yeah. Yeah, it feels really different. It feels like there's something hanging over me. It's not just I'm not having sex. It's like if somebody comes along, I'm not really sure how to handle that situation.
Because you'll have to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. I almost can't get past the barrier of telling somebody and having to deal with potential rejection.
Have you had any flirtations since you found out about your diagnosis?
Yeah. And one in particular, we have a past history, and it's like he's back in my life, and we've been friendly, but I can't imagine it would just be a friendship. And so there's that whole idea of oh man, what if something happened? And then on top of that, how would I deal with this? I keep thinking maybe he has it too, so it doesn't have to be a big deal.
Maybe my dreams will come true and he has it too.
I've never thought of myself as hoping somebody has herpes. It's I don't know. I try to find the humor in things.
Jihan wrote in about how her body is affecting her sex life. She's Black and lives in L.A., and she says she's not having sex because men just don't seem interested in her. At least, not any men that she'd want to be with.
I tend to attract men who fetishize Black women.
But when Jihan leaves the country, everything changes. She first noticed it when she studied abroad.
I was so not used to being approached by men that I didn't realize I was being sort of asked out. And I remember even writing home to friends and you guys, I get asked out on dates, when I was in the UK. And it's really a light comes on when I leave the country, even if I'm just going to Canada. And a light sort of turns off when I'm back.
It shows you it's not you, it's the culture in your country.
Yeah, it just makes me feel like I don't have to feel terrible about myself. I can feel like I am still the same interesting person that men want to date abroad. I just, I can't find the same thing here. And that's why, I really love that episode of Parks and Rec where I think it's a Venezuelan delegation, comes to Pawnee, and all of the men in the Venezuelan delegation are really interested in Donna, and she goes, "I'm not surprised. I do very well in South America." And I was just yes, 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 yes. Finally, somebody gets what I've been talking about.
Coming up, meet a man who has not one but two women in his life, whose friends don't understand why he's not having sex.
A lot of them are still single. I guess that might have something to do with it.
This episode first came out in 2015, and over the years, we've gotten updates from some of the people who shared their stories with us. Sarah and Claire, the couple you heard at the beginning of this episode, they broke up a few years back.
It wasn't because we weren't having sex. I think we were just, I know we were just wanted different things in life and were drifting apart and heading different ways.
That's Sarah. She's since moved to another country and has dated several other people since she and Claire ended their relationship.
I still have the belief that if you're not having sex, something is not going well in your relationship.
Jihan let us know that she isn't dating anyone right now. She tried the apps again recently, but didn't have any luck. I've traveled abroad for romance or dating since 2015, she wrote, and I'm making a plan now to spend large chunks of the year out of the country. And we heard from Ellen again, the woman who told us about not having sex because she was diagnosed with herpes. Life is drastically better, she told us. When she wrote, she was still having frequent outbreaks, but was dating and had disclosed her STI to her partner. I'm totally having sex, she wrote. Having to be honest about herpes made it a lot easier to be honest about my feelings, my preferences, and in general, how I express myself. We've also made an episode all about your experiences living with S.T.I.s, and we put a link to that in our show notes. And to be clear, we are cheering you on, whether you are or aren't interested in having lots of sex. I want you to have an outlet to have some fun and release, and to feel held close and safe. And sex is just one way to discover that, a potent one. As Carvel Wallace writes in his beautiful new book, Another Word for Love, quote, "Sometimes I think it might hold the secrets to almost everything. If we can learn how to treat it with care, we may be able to heal every part of us that needs healing." Hungry Root is the easiest way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having a personal assistant for healthy living. Here's what it's like for me. Imagine it's a weeknight, and somehow it's 20 minutes before dinner time, and I've just gotten home with the kids. And instead of being like, oh, takeout or quesadillas or pasta with butter again, there is an actual meal I can prepare with fresh, healthy ingredients that's not the same thing my family always has. It's home-cooked, it's really good, and it's fast, and based on the exact kind of things my family likes to eat. How you do it is you take a fun, short quiz, and Hungry Root will get to know your personal health goals, what you like to eat, and more. And then they help you build a personalized cart with all your grocery needs for the week and give you delicious recipe recommendations to put those groceries to use. Each order is fully customizable, so you can take their suggestions or choose anything you want. They've got fresh produce, high-quality meat and seafood, healthy snacks, smoothies, sweets, ready-to-eat meals, and much more. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Death, Sex, and Money listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/DSM to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/DSM. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you. Spring is a good time to start a new workout routine, to get into a good rhythm, tap into your power, and build towards summer you. And Peloton can help you do that. It accommodates your schedule with a variety of class lengths to choose from, even if you only have 5 minutes. Peloton has a range of class types fit for every goal and mood. If you can't run, try a walking class. Need some grounding? Try yoga. Want to level up? Go for Pilates or HIIT workouts. You can move at your own pace, and Peloton makes the process easy with personalized recommendations and guided programs that take the guesswork out of working out. Peloton has everything you need to get where you're going, whether you prefer to run outdoors, row or ride at home, or strength train at the gym. Peloton has something for you. Get a head start on summer and try Peloton risk-free with Peloton Rentals at onepeloton.com/bike/rentals. This episode is brought to you by Fail Better. David Duchovny's new podcast with Limonada Media. On Fail Better, David, who has experienced both low and high-profile failures throughout his life, explores the vast world of failure, how it holds us back, propels us forward, and ultimately shapes our lives. Each week, he will chat with guests like Ben Stiller, Bette Midler, and more about how our perceived failures have actually been our biggest catalysts for growth, revelation, even healing. Through these conversations, he hopes listeners can learn how to embrace the opportunity of failure and fail better together. Fail Better is out now wherever you get your podcasts. This is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate. I'm Anna Sale. Part of what can be so hard about not having sex when you want to be is figuring out how much is under your control. Like for Marie, the 34-year-old virgin from the start of the episode.
I've been like, just forget about it. I'm just going to go out and have a one-night stand and just kind of get rid of my virginity.
She works as a therapist, where she helps her clients change the things they can about themselves and accept what they can't change. Marie's tried to do both with her virginity.
I think when I was much younger, I had this idea that, I would get a boyfriend and it would just happen. At other points in time, I even thought about, kind of propositioning a friend of mine so that I can say, I've had sex with somebody, I'm not a virgin anymore. It's not this cross I have to bear any longer. But when I thought about it, that wasn't who I am. It's taken me a little while to kind of get to a place where I'm okay with that.
So you're hearing from clients about the most intimate details of their lives, including in some cases their sex lives.
Yep.
How has being in this position where you get to hear people's deepest histories, how's that shaped the way you think of your own experience?
I listen with, I think it's probably a bit of fascination that other people probably would not have, because it just fascinates me sometimes the way how open people are. There's definitely some jealousy there because this is a part of their life that many of them are fully enjoying, or so they're telling me, and I don't get to enjoy that part of it at this point in my life.
Yeah. You're curious.
Which I am. I definitely am.
Do you think people assume that you have a ton of sex?
Oh, yeah. They just think everything is like threesome orgy heaven I'm living in. And nobody believes me.
Mike wrote in from Michigan.
I'm in a happily married relationship that turned into a triad with our girlfriend at the time. We sleep all next to each other every night. We eat dinner together. Unfortunately, the relationship had a breakdown, and sex is the issue that we always seem to fight over.
So it's you and your wife and your girlfriend. And when you opened up your marriage and brought this other woman into your relationship, was it sexual at first? Was it primarily a sexual reason?
Well, not so much for me. My wife, she enjoyed being with women. So honestly, when we started talking about it, I was excited, with the whole idea of being able to be with two women, it's supposed to be the ideal fantasy for a guy, Well, it started off that way. Unfortunately, once my wife and my girlfriends, they got in an argument, and after that, they refused to be sexual with each other. And then they became jealous of any encounters we had with either me and my wife or me and my girlfriend, to the point where they'd get physical, they'd fight. And like I say, it just became easier not to.
How long has it been since you've had sex?
Well, I think maybe January 21st, 2014. That was the 10th anniversary of me meeting my wife. And I think there was one other night with my girlfriend.
So it's been about a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you miss sex?
Sometimes, but because we've been doing this for so long that I don't even have the desire anymore. I feel like it's like Pavlovian.
Huh.
I've touched, I've got shocked so many times. I feel like conditioned.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about breaking up?
It's hard because we made a life together. I mean, there are a million married couples out there right now who do not have sex anymore, and they stay together because they have a life together. Just because there's three of us doesn't mean we don't have a life, that this isn't a family. About 8 months ago, I broke out in shingles, and neither of them had chicken pox, and they were still there with rubber gloves on, rubbing the ointment we got on them.
Taking care of you. Yeah.
They do. They take care of me. And even though they are jealous of each other, they love each other. To see the everyday acts of devotion, I mean, that's something that, I still smile. Don't get me wrong. There's sometimes, it's an issue. The issue comes up, but honestly, I prefer to avoid the subject. It's just not even something we talk about anymore.
So when your sex life breaks down, sometimes your communication goes with it. But other times, not doing it requires a lot of talking.
I believe that sex was created to be used to glorify God in marriage.
Vanessa's in her early 20s. She lives in Canada, and she and her boyfriend have been together for about a year and a half. They're both Christians, and both want to wait until marriage. But it hasn't always been easy.
We sometimes are like, okay, we just need to step away from each other, and even not sitting on the same couch. Sometimes we'll just wave from across. And
Do you find, is one of you the enforcer more often than the other?
I think that in relationships, you would assume that the girl is more of the enforcer. But I think that it's really equal between us, and that we kind of take turns being like the bad cop in a way, because it is a difficult thing. And when you love someone and you want to be with them and give to them as a partner, then it's difficult. It's a difficult struggle, because it's not just oh, I don't want to have sex before I'm married. It's that there's something that I want to give you that I can't right now.
How did you decide what level of intimacy was okay?
It's been a journey through that. And originally we talked and we had a super awkward conversation where it laid out everything basically that could be appropriate and everything that wasn't. And what I really appreciate about our relationship was that wasn't a hard and fast rule, but it's been a moving conversation since then. And if we feel that something isn't working, then we're going to take it out.
What is something that you thought might be okay and then realized, actually, we need to tighten the boundaries on this?
Sitting on his lap while we're making out, that's an issue that we've gone back and forth about maybe 3 or 4 times.
What's your current position on that?
I think currently we're okay with it.
Uh-huh.
But subject to change.
More stories about why you're not having sex after the break. This episode is brought to you by Fail Better, David Duchovny's new podcast with Limonada Media. On Fail Better, David, who has experienced both low and high-profile failures throughout his life, explores the vast world of failure, how it holds us back, propels us forward, and ultimately shapes our lives. Each week, he will chat with guests like Ben Stiller, Bette Midler, and more about how our perceived failures have actually been our biggest catalyst for growth, revelation, and even healing. Through these conversations, he hopes listeners can learn how to embrace the opportunity of failure and fail better together. Fail Better is out now wherever you get your podcasts. We have had a lot of exciting new things to share with you about the show recently, but this might be some of our biggest news yet. Death, Sex, and Money is officially going to be live in New York City at the Tribeca Festival on June 11th. And I want to personally invite you to the live taping we'll be doing with the legendary journalist Kara Swisher. If you know Kara's work, you know her ability to get people to tell her things is unmatched. And she does it in her signature, hard-charging way. She's not afraid of things getting a little combustible. I have a slightly different interview style, so we're going to talk about that and play around with that in experimental ways that I think will make this a special show unlike any of our other live shows up to this point. And it's not often that I get to do a live Death, Sex, and Money show in New York, so I really hope to see you there. Whether you're in the city, on the East Coast, or just been looking for a reason to visit New York City, come on June 11th for this show. You can get tickets now at tribecafilm.com/deathsexmoney. We are so excited to see you there. Daphne got married when she was 28, and she also didn't have sex until after she was married. But for her, it wasn't for religious reasons. How long have you been with your husband?
We've been married about 5.5 years.
So when you started dating your husband, when you were just beginning your relationship, how did you talk about sex?
Well, basically we didn't. We did kind of fool around, but we never progressed to intercourse. He kind of tried to one night, and I just told him I wasn't ready, and he never tried again. And, time just kind of progressed.
And when did you have sex?
About 5 months ago.
So after about 5 years of marriage?
Yes.
What happened between when you got married and when you had sex?
I would say a lot of crying, a lot of fighting, a lot of therapy. Basically, I was raised with a sexual education that kind of revolved around the idea of just don't have any. I was raised with a lot of fear surrounding pregnancy. Like if you get pregnant and you're not married, it's going to ruin your life. That kind of put a big block there. And even though I was in a relationship and wanted to, there seemed to be a lot of kind of psychological effects and some physical effects that kind of made it not happen.
When you were married for first a year and then 2 years, then 3 years, and then 4 years without having sex, did it feel like your marriage was ever in jeopardy?
I definitely felt that way on my side. I've discussed those feelings with my husband, and I don't believe he experienced it in that way. But for me, I definitely was like, if I don't fix this soon, he's going to get fed up and leave me.
What have you learned from your therapy?
Oh, man. What haven't I learned, really? I think a large part of it really comes down to not just physical intimacy, but real emotional intimacy with somebody. Because even when we would do, exercises from our therapist dealing with the more physical aspects, the root of it all really came down to just building that sense of trust with each other that I think was finally able to lay the groundwork for it to happen.
What was sex like?
It It was great. My therapist had kind of told us, I feel like you've built up a lot of momentum, so go home this week, try it. If don't worry about having orgasms, don't worry about being mind-blowing sex, just try insertion. And when we were in bed and I was about to try, I had this very conscious moment of just fear and like, oh God, am I really about to do this? Am I really ready? And then another side of me was like, hell yes, you're ready. Like, stop worrying and analyzing about being ready and just do it already. So I did, and it was fun. And I would say I was actually surprised by how not shaken I was by it. It was definitely a load off.
Has having sex made you experience desire in a more intense way?
I would say yes. Yeah. Which I think sometimes maybe takes my husband aback a little bit. He's a little shy. So I think me all of a sudden being very interested in sex and pursuing him can sometimes feel a little shocking for him, maybe. We kind of had a laugh about it in those first few weeks after we finally did it. And I was, really flirting with him a lot. One night he came home and I jokingly, pushed him against the wall and kind of melodramatically ripped his, the top button of his shirt came off and flew across the room. And he was just like, whoa, take it easy. So then you're back on the merry-go-round of, oh, I'm rejected. And, oh, no, I wasn't rejecting you. I just was surprised. And,
Yes.
That's where the therapy kicks in.
Yes.
And you bounce back from those things a lot faster.
Yeah. That's the story of many, many a marriage right there.
Right.
That's a listener we called Daphne. She told us a few years later that she and her husband had a baby girl. She wrote to us, now we're navigating a new side of the same coin, how to manage having a sex life after having a kid. She also added that she's reading a lot of sex-positive parenting books, so her daughter may eventually have an easier time with sex than she did. This episode was originally produced by Katie Bishop and me with help from James Ramsey and Destry Sibley. Our team at Slate is Andrew Dunn, Zoe Azoulay, and Cameron Drews. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer at Slate. Alicia Montgomery is Slate's head of audio. Please support the production of our show by becoming a member of Slate Plus. You'll not only support our work on Death, Sex, and Money, you'll get access to new benefits, including listening to us and all of the great shows Slate makes, like Slow Burn and Decoder Ring, without any ads or sponsor breaks. Be a part of helping us build a solid foundation at Death, Sex, and Money's new home by subscribing to Slate Plus. To subscribe, just click Try Free at the top of the Death, Sex, and Money show page on Apple Podcasts, or visit slate.com/DSM Plus to get access wherever you listen. Our theme music is by the Reverend John DeLore and Steve Lewis. Find us and follow us on Instagram at Death, Sex, Money, and you can read my weekly newsletter at annasale.substack.com. And reach us anytime with voice memos, pep talks, questions, and critiques at our email, deathsexmoney@slate.com. We love hearing from you. Thanks again to all of you for sharing your stories of not having sex. And if you want a little more company, stream 40-Year-Old Virgin. I just love Steve Carell.
You know what? I respect women. I love women. I respect them so much that I completely stay away from them.
I'm Anna Sale, and this is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate. Spring is the best time to start a new workout routine. It's our yearly collective warm-up. And Peloton accommodates you with a variety of classes and lengths to choose from. Even if you only have 5 minutes, Peloton has classes for you, from guided hikes, Pilates, to HIIT rides. Peloton has everything you need to get you where you're going. Whether you prefer to run outdoors, row or ride at home, or strength train at the gym, Peloton has something for you. Get a head start on summer and try Peloton risk-free with Peloton Rentals at onepeloton.com/bike/rentals. We have had a lot of exciting new things to share with you about the show recently, but this might be some of our biggest news yet. Death, Sex, and Money is officially going to be live in New York City at the Tribeca Festival on June 11th. And I want to personally invite you to the live taping we'll be doing with the legendary journalist Kara Swisher. If you know Kara's work, you know her ability to get people to tell her things is unmatched. And she does it in her signature hard-charging way. She's not afraid of things getting a little combustible. I have a slightly different interview style, so we're going to talk about that and play around with that in experimental ways that I think will make this a special show unlike any of our other live shows up to this point. And it's not often that I get to do a live Death, Sex, and Money show in New York, so I really hope to see you there. Whether you're in the city, on the East Coast, or just been looking for a reason to visit New York City, come on June 11th for this show. You can get tickets now at tribecafilm.com/deathsexmoney. We are so excited to see you there.